So you are also the executive director of Steps of Faith Foundation.
That's right. That's right.
Can you tell me how that started?
Yeah. So 2013, beginning of 2013 was really great segue, because 2005 is this incredibly pivotal year. Starts one way, ends a very different way.
Yeah, completely. It is. Turns out it's not brain damage.
Yeah, right.
Which
Yeah, exactly. So, and 2013 was kind of like the next like huge change in my life. So I was living in Nashville, Tennessee, working as a musician on a good month, coming off of 2012, a big year of really like working all year. It's like, oh, this is what I moved here for. This is great.
Yeah, things are going great.
Yeah, playing with a lot of folks and doing cool stuff. My wife became pregnant towards the end of that year, which was wonderful and was planned and a hope. And anyway, that's a whole other story. That was a beautiful thing.
Full adults. You were fully integrated into adulthood
That's right.
At this point.
Yes. And so at the beginning of the year, the baby came 6 weeks early.
Oh, dang.
But he was fine, but it was very scary and traumatic. First baby, and he was in the NICU for a little bit. This is relevant to the question you've asked. And so I was then looking, so also the phone really wasn't ringing. It's like a big year, and then there was a couple months where the phone wasn't ringing for me to come play.
Yeah, that's that contract life.
Oh gosh, yeah, freelancing it real hard. And so I was kind of looking for, I got to find another job. And even then, if I don't want to go on the road right now. I don't want to be away from this little guy. And so one day, early on, after our son was born, again, beginning of 2013, my prosthetist in Nashville, I was having an appointment with him, getting a new socket or something. And he said, I've got a patient who I'm seeing for the first time. He just lost his leg to cancer. He's all healed up. I'm starting to fit him today. On your way out, will you just go in and just talk to him for a second? And I was like, dude, I would love that. I feel like that's part of why this happened to me, and I never get to have conversations like that. It was like somebody on somebody on Facebook that I went to high school with. It's like their cousin's husband is losing a leg. Like I'm good for like one of those a year. Like, yeah, I'll talk to the guy. But I had enough of them at that point to know that like I got a lot out of having conversations like that. So he's like, okay, great, go in there. And so I talked to the guy for like 5 minutes, and he was all, like, okay, I could just see the hope in his eyes.
Yeah, they're like, I'm gonna be okay. I think there's like, when you get the news or right after it happens to you, you're like, am I a profoundly different person now? And then you have like enough experiences, you're like, oh, nah, I just got one leg. Like, I'm
right, yeah, I'm the same guy. I just have a broader perspective on things. Yeah. And so, anyway, that was a great conversation, and I remember I went home that day after that appointment, and talking to that guy, and I told my wife, I was like, I wish that could be my job. Had another appointment with the prosthetist the next day, told him the same thing, and he said, well, maybe it could be. I'm like, yeah, okay. And very long story short, he introduced me to a guy named Rob Pittman, who was his boss, who owned the clinic. And Rob and I had a couple conversations and kind of hit it off, and he was talking about working together somehow. I was like, okay. And he explained to me that he had established a 501c3 4 years prior.
Oh, nice.
And been trying.
Paperwork been done.
Paperwork, that part's out of the way.
Oh, thank God.
And so then, therefore, the mission of what the organization would do, but there was no organization.
Yeah.
He had been having people come into his clinic, they didn't have insurance, and he just wanted to help them get back to work or whatever they were doing to the best of his ability and just writing it off. Yeah. And that's why he had established it. But he was like running this huge business. He didn't have time to run another very difficult full-time business. And so I joked that he tossed me the keys to a car with no engine in it and said, see what you can do with that. And
like, you're the engine now.
Yeah, and so he had kind of laid the groundwork, and it was all originally his idea, but then I went forth and by just simply telling everyone I knew, check out what just happened to me, because it's a cool part of the story, right? And kind of helps make sense of why all this junk happened to me. What that did is kind of inadvertently built the original donor base that basically is thankfully grown, but has sustained us for 6 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's exciting. So Steps of Faith Foundation, currently. Yeah. What do they do?
Yeah. So we are a nonprofit, originally based in Nashville, now based in Kansas City. But we help amputees nationwide that have no health insurance, or folks that have Medicaid, like in this great state of Texas, where if you're over 21, Medicaid doesn't cover prosthetic care. So folks that have no other way to pay for a prosthetic device and just want to get back to whatever, right? So we help those people. So we work with prosthetists around the country. They donate their time, and then we buy the stuff, ship it to them, and then get people back going.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a good gig. I mean, I had my own. I've had the same insurance policy since I was in high school. And so all through when I was sick, all through the leg and everything. And, in 2006, microprocessor technology was still...
Became more, it was slowly...
Yeah, but Blue Cross is like, and so we'll cover half of that. So I had to have this, fortunately, I had some great friends and, the whole community of people that came together and we raised $30,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
isn't it just crazy, though, to be like, just the misfortune of like becoming ill and losing a limb is just so obscenely expensive, just to be unlucky. And $30,000 covers half of a device for, only a fixed amount of years, which is...
Right. Yeah, forever I had a recurring nightmare that was always a different circumstance but yielded the same result, and that my leg got wet and was ruined.
I've had that, washing the dishes. I hate the dishes. Right. But in my dreams, I'm washing all these dishes, spilling water all over myself.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God. So like that fact that now if it's raining with this leg and I don't have to be like, oh, I can't wear shorts because it's 90. It'd be great if I could wear shorts. I don't have to worry about that, which is fantastic. So no, Steps of Faith, I mean, I'm very passionate about it. I feel really lucky. Again, it answers a lot of questions about my life, kind of why this happened to me. There's a real purpose for me, obviously. And I can relate to the situation that like most of these folks are in. So 6 years later, I should have done up to the minute count, but over 250 people. We did like 76 of them last year.
Wow, that's huge.
The last 2 years is a lot of growth. And it's been a tiny staff. I mean, we just added a third person that's just part-time. But it's a good gig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so you have had you've had other people help support part of the donations, part of your events. Are you friends with Jason Sudeikis?
Yes.
I think I saw that's.
He's one of my best buds. So so we grew up together, more or less. I was 18, he was 19 when we met. We used to do work together at a place called Comedy Sports.
I was ready for you to be like Saturday Night Live. I was like,
we used to work together at a little place called. No, that was just him. I was fortunate to be there with him a lot, which was great. But yeah, no, we used to do improv together.
Yeah.
Doing it's a place called Comedy Sports. That's like it was kind of like Whose Line Is It Anyway, like short form improv game type stuff. And we became close back then, and then have just been, he's been one of my best friends ever since. So actually, that fundraiser for me in 2006, he was like newly on SNL at that point. And so, but enough to have a little bit of hype behind him, you know? And some other friends from Comedy Sports. They put together this thing. My band played, and we raised all this money, and it was great. So when I got the gig, when the Steps of Faith situation fell from the sky into my lap, thanks to Rob, I told Jason I was still working a little bit as a musician. I was actually a couple months later on the road playing a week of shows. It was in New York. And I was like, so I got to tell you about this new job, And I told him, and I was like, if we raise $30,000, that would help like a lot of people instead of half of one leg, He was like, that's amazing. So we said right then and there, when the time is right for him, because it was always right for us, we're like, please help us.
Right now is right.
Yeah, right now is right. We'll do an event. And it'll be, and we had this conversation like every year, it's like, it'll be whatever we want it to be. Like you and I make the rules. And so in 2017, that's what we did. And we put together this thing, and I will say like, this time of that year, like, around April, we were in the situation we'd been in many times with Steps of Faith where it was like, not sure if we're going to make payroll this month.
Yeah, you're like,
just like
tight.
keeping the, And Jason came in and helped out, and some other people did, and we got over that hump. But then he and I started talking about putting together this event, and that's what we did. So we ended up having a good year anyway, and then we put together this event that we called Thunder Gong, which is a concert event, but it's unique in that it's not just famous-y special musicians, but there's also famous-y special people that are not necessarily famous for being musicians, but are big music people, Jason being one of them. So yeah, the first year we had Jason hosted, and we had Will Forte and Fred Armisen.
Oh, cool.
And also Winona Judd, her husband is an amputee who's on our board, and they're dear friends.
You know, we're everywhere.
We're everywhere, man.
We're everywhere.
He's amputee drummer. That's how we became Cactus
what are the
Mosier.
chances?
I know. And we had a mutual friend, and when Cactus lost his leg, this is before Steps of Faith, I knew it was left leg above the knee, and I reached out to this guy. I was like, you got to put me in touch with this dude, you know. And so we were very fast friends, and I was able to explain the mechanics of how it will work as a drummer. And so, and so we had Tech Nine.
Tech Nine, Casey Mo.
You know Tech
Nine.
Nine.
Yeah, that was a pre-cheerleading music for me.
Casey Mo. Yeah, that's right.
I looked really ridiculous listening to that, but but it really fed my soul.
That's good.
Before competition.
That's good. Yeah, Tech Nine. He's an anthem hip hop guy. So we had all these great people, and then we raised a bunch of money, and it was like, first of all, it was like a dream come true experience for me, not getting to play music as much.
Event.
To just like do this thing with my friend and all of these other friends. And like I put together the house band, and we backed all these artists, and I played drums all night. And then we raised all this money for my organization, and it was really incredible. And then we did it again last year, and it was even bigger and better. And we had Chance the Rapper and Ben Harper.
That's huge.
It was nuts.
That's awesome.
It was nuts. And so we're talking about it. We're already starting for this year, getting it together. And yeah, it's a great thing. So no, Jason is a dear friend and one of my brothers, and been, in particular in the last 2 years, a huge ally in that.
For growth in that.